Hello there, I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to bridge the gap between tabs and musical notation. If you can read tab already, if you can use tab, and you would like to be able to use more musical notation, standard musical notation, it can be really daunting to learn musical notation. It's really brain taxing stuff. So how do we bridge the gap from tab to notation? Have many ideas for you in this video. If you enjoy it, please do subscribe. All right, let's jump in. So here we have a piece of tab with some musical notation above it. So the first thing that you can do, if you're a tab reader and you want to start learning musical notation, or you want to get better at it, the first thing is to use tabs that have musical notation attached like this. Yes, you might have to print out more pages to do it, but it's worth it because then you can be looking at the musical notation. And you can use the tab while doing the musical notation. So the very first rule is it doesn't have to be all of one or the other. It doesn't mean if you're working with musical notation, if you're learning it, it doesn't mean that you have to throw out your tab. It might be faster that way, but you'll also need to be playing much simpler music because the stuff that moves up into the higher parts of the guitar and everything, it's not as easy to read on the staff as it is on the tabs. So the first thing that you can do then is to still use your tabs, but do it with musical notation up here on the top. So here we have the tabs. This is Lagerman. You know this piece, right? So this is Lagerman. And so one of the first things that we can do is, okay, so we have our fingerings. What is tab? Tab is fingerings, right? This tells us, it's not even fingerings, it tells us what frets to push on what strings. That's what tab is. So these tell us the 4th fret and the 2nd fret and the open string. That's the information we get, right? So the very first thing that we can do with musical notation is to look at any sort of fingerings. And that's these little bitty numbers by the notes up here. So we can look at what fingers should we put on those frets, right? So now we're just going to go in, and this is really the strategy in a nutshell, is that we can go in and mine the musical notation for information, for specific information to help us add to the tab that we can already know. So first off, our left-hand fingerings, right? These left-hand fingerings. So that's one thing that we can do. Another thing that we can do, and you can do that even if you don't read any musical notation or anything, because you know these two notes are being played and here are the notes up here. And so you can directly look up there and say, you don't have to know what this note is. You don't have to know what this note is. You don't have to know what the black note with the stem means, the rhythm. You don't have to know any of that. All you have to know is, what am I looking at? This is going to be the top one, and that'll be the bottom one. And there it is right in front of me. So then you're looking at this note and this note are the same. That means that we can say that's the one finger, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's my one finger on that note. That's my 4 up there. So that's the first thing that we can do. The next that we can do is to look at, and this is in no particular order. You can do these in any order you like. The next is that we could look up for any sort of right-hand fingerings as well. P-I-M-A, thumb is P, I index, middle is M, and annular is the ring finger. So P-I-M-A, we can look for right-hand fingerings up there as well. Another thing we can look for is the rhythm. In this one, it happens to be a straight rhythm, but if you're just starting to learn this, you might not know that. So we can look up here and say, what is the rhythm? Are there quarter notes? Are there eighth notes? What's going on? Are there long notes? So what's going on with the rhythm? Can I clap it and count it? And so as you're learning to read musical notation, rhythm is one of the most important things that you could do first if you already read tab, because then you can add that to the tab. And then after that, you can start looking at this note is an A and it's played here, and this note is a B, and whatever it happens to be. So rhythm is a great thing to learn on the front side of your learning musical notation. Next up, we can look for any sort of expressive information. Adagio. What does this mean? You can look it up on Google and figure it out, and that's a musical marking. It'll give you insight into the music. You can also look at these slide markings right here. Like, what does that mean? If there was an accent on something, boom, like if you could look at that. So you can start to figure out what different accents and different symbols mean. If there's a marcato sign, a line over something, what does that mean? Or a dot. What do all these little things mean if there's a little dot under that note? So you can look for expressive devices or expressive symbols to give you insight into the character of the music. So now you have the notes, you know where to play them, you have the rhythm up here, or you might just have it in your ear. Then if some notes, it might be, I just played that all wrong, but the whole point was some notes were short, some notes were long, things like that. So expressive symbols and information is something that you can look for. The next thing that you can look for are the different parts of the music. So you can say, because once we have down here, it doesn't tell us what's what. It's just these are the notes all together. But really, up here what we have is we have some notes are going with stems up, some notes have stems down. There's a rest right here. So that in this particular string of music, there are 3 different parts of the music. It's like 3 different people playing at the same time. And you don't get that from the tab. But you can get it if you know what to look for. So you can have the melody notes are outlined here. They're the stems up at the very top. And then there's also the bass notes right here, which are the stems down. And so 2 different lines of music. Well, that's a whole lot more information than you get from just the tab down here. And then we have, not highlighted, in between it, we have the accompaniment voices on the inside that are just kind of the filler. Mainly just this open B that happens after everything. A little bit of a jog right there. So that's what's going on with this particular piece. So instead of just trying to dive in and learn every little thing at the exact same time, instead you can layer in your learning of musical notation and still use your tab and be more musical, start to understand more, recognize how music looks, get used to looking at it, because that's one of the most daunting things. If you didn't have this and you were just looking at this as one big thing, it's really daunting. It takes so much glucose and brain power to be able to figure out what each little symbol means whenever there are 15 symbols packed into every square inch. It's a real task and it's hard. And so it takes time. It's just a perfectly natural thing. Kids do it because they spend years on it without really realizing it, because it's just something they do for half an hour after dinner. So these are some ways you can mine the musical notation for information and just layer in musical notation into your tab reading. Here's the thing. If you don't know either, if you can't read tabs and you can't read notation, just start in with musical notation. And that way you don't have to go through all this and you can just start working on musical notation as its own first thing. But if you already read tab, then absolutely keep using it and just start layering in more and more information from the notation. And then on the side, you can practice reading simpler things, because you might be technically at a much higher level than hot cross buns or something like that. But that's your reading ability. So you can practice your note reading separately and then learn your great pieces that are more inspiring to you to learn, that are harder pieces that your hands can fully do, but you can't read yet on the notation. All right, hope that helps. The main thing is that you just do something and you just keep learning and keep getting better and challenging yourself on a daily basis. As long as you're doing that, then you're doing great. All right, hope you have enjoyed this. Please do subscribe to this channel and we'll do it again. Take care. Bye-bye.